सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। न अन्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिष्प्रज्ञं न उभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानघनं न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञम् अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम् अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम् अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम् एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम् प्रपञ्च उपशमम् शान्तम् शिवम् अद्वैतम् चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः। So this seventh mantra that we are studying is actually a summary of a lot of the unfolding of the truth from the very beginning of the Mandukya Upanishad. The Mandukya Upanishad, as you know, is part of the Atharva Veda. And another Upanishad which is also part of the Atharva Veda is Mandukya Upanishad. And the Mandukya Upanishad is a more detailed Upanishad. The Mandukya is a more concise. The Mandukya can also be considered to be a summary of the Mandukya Upanishad. And out of the Mandukya Upanishad, the seventh mantra of the Upanishad which we are studying, Antah Pragyam, is the summary of the earlier part of the Mandukya Upanishad. So this is kind of like a summary of the summary, and which is very precise and very very effective if we understand it. So this is why it's going to take us some while to, it's not a question of just reading words and seeing what the word meanings are and then going ahead with it. It doesn't deliver the goods. You have to do the understanding of the words, also have to be understood, because the sentence meaning is the main thing. And the sentence meaning would not be clear until the word meanings are clear. And the context also has to be clear. And the context is really our life. You have to look at the relevance of all these Upanishadic statements and relate to it and say, yes, this is true. All this process takes time. It's not trivial. This is what is Adhyatmika Vidya. And just last couple of days ago, I had a chance to talk at the funeral of Usha Bilani. As you know, Usha just recently passed away, and Suresh and his family were very gracious to let me talk for a few minutes along with his own family members. So what I said in that assembly was that if you look at the most valuable faculty that we have in our life, out of all the faculties about hands and feet, and then of course the very important the inner portions of the body, the heart and the lungs and all those kinds of things. And the most important faculty we have is that of knowledge, vidya. I mean, it's very obvious to us that this is the problem within India, is that most of the children there grow up without getting a proper education, and as a result, you cannot lead a full life as an educated person does. So the vidya, knowledge, is the most important faculty given by Ishvara. And this is why to fully develop as a human being, as the goal of the human being, it is important to have the knowledge of things. And I was saying that in that assembly, that out of all the Laukika Vidya, the worldly knowledge, the most important worldly knowledge is medical knowledge. And I feel that really, you make some decisions, your parents make decisions, but I think that if I had the choice again to be a doctor, which is the highest form of worldly knowledge, and to be a doctor, to be an effective, and especially these days where you have so much specialization, it's not easy. There's a lot of application of your faculties. You have to learn a lot, you have to study a lot. It all starts with biology 101 and then builds up to it. And that is the highest form of Laukika Vidya. And so happens that Usha was also a physician, so I appreciate that. Having said that, I mean, you can, out of the worldly pursuits, the highest pursuit that you can have is to become a doctor. Why? Because it's amazing, the knowledge of the body-mind complex is the most sophisticated apparatus in the world, created by Ishvara. And to be able to understand it and to deal with it and to help others lead a healthy life is a very beautiful thing. So this is Laukika Vidya. But then this is where the Laukika, the worldly limitations end. There is something even much more sublime, much more subtle, much more useful. Not even useful. Useful is like a toothbrush. Toothbrush is useful. This is moksha. This is freedom itself. To have the knowledge of what it takes to be a mukta, to be a free person, this is what is called Adhyatmika Vidya. And the Adhyatmika Vidya is much more important than the Laukika Vidya, and therefore It takes a lot of understanding, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication. The whole person has to be put into a place where this is a possibility. This is why this sometimes takes the whole lifetime. And more often than that, it takes multiple lifetimes. It's a very slow process. It's not easy to really become mukta. And then I ended my talk. It's a very brief talk, just about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5. And I said that I'm very happy that Usha having conquered the Laukika Vidya, had an introduction to the Adhyatmika Vidya. She used to come to the classes and she got a good dose of it. Then I ended by saying that Arjuna asked a very important question to Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, as you know, is Moksha Shastra. It is to understand, to be a muktaha in this life, as a jivan mukta. So it is all about this life. It's a complete treatise of the Adhyatmika Vidya. But in the 8th chapter, we have talked about it already, Arjuna asks him a question. And he says, I am trying to understand this. And you can see the struggles of Arjuna in trying to understand it. What happens if I am not able to do that in this life? So there Krishna says, you don't think that I am aware of that? In this whole Srishti, I am the creator of it. You think I will forget that you did a lot and then all of that is completely forgotten? You have to start all over again. Does that make any sense? Of course not. So he says, please rest assured, you keep working, keep thinking, keep all of that. If you run out of time, we'll make sure that you start with where you had left off. So don't worry about that. Anyway, so this is our situation, is that this is not easy. And so, but I think that even an introduction to Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya, is a very important thing. How we absorb it and how we completely understand it is up to us, and it will happen. It's a done deal. It's not as though you cannot do it. It's not. This is the beauty of it. I remember in talking to Swami Dayanandji, all of us, we used to say that, Swamiji, how it's very difficult. I think his advice on answering that question, is it easy, is it difficult? He says, I don't know if we can say it's difficult or not, but it's already done. You are already free. So don't make it any more difficult than what it is. Just see who you are. But given our prior history, and this is what happens, Vedanta is very easy, but we make it difficult because of all the problems we put on ourselves. Anyway, so all I was saying was that this is an important mantra, which is a summary of the rest of the Upanishad. And this Upanishad itself is a very advanced summary of all the other Upanishads. So this is a very important, this is why we are spending some time. I was just looking at it. And I think we have it in the title. This is the 20th class on the 7th mantra. And we have taken 84 classes so far in the Mandukya Upanishad. And out of that, the first 64 was the preparation. And this is the mantra where all the preparation becomes real to understand. Anyway, so we'll continue with that introduction. So in the last class, we had spent a fair amount of time in understanding the fact that what the Shastra tells us is that all of our problems of life are due to identification. All the sukha dukkha, every possible sukha dukkha, every possible set of challenges, problems, relief, all the experiences of life are all due to identification, abhimana. This we should keep front and center. We get lost in the details as we go ahead, which is okay, which is natural. But in doing that, the most important thing to understand is that I am acting as an abhimani. I'm an identifier. This is what we were examining. And then we saw a example. The example that we gave, and it's good in the modern days, we have movies to go to. And the movies are, more and more there are high-tech movies with surround sound. Too loud, actually, but there is a reason for it. They want you to be completely immersed in this experience of the movie. And you should leave beside your cell phones, and the modern seats are very comfortable. You can lean back and be surrounded by the very big screen and the sound. All of that is to the fact that you have a great opportunity to be immersed in a situation where there is a chance to be identified with the topic at hand, with the unfolding of the picture and story and so on. And you do. You do, pretty soon. You may resist it for a while, supposing you're having some issues in your own life and so on. They're likely to persist for a while, but sooner or later, if the movie is powerful, if the movie is not powerful, then it doesn't happen. But if the movie is powerful, you really become immersed in the identification. And from that point on, you don't think about your own status, your own life. You're now taken into the storyline of the identification. So this is what happens. Okay? Now, let's examine this, because this is very important. This whole process of analysis is very key. So consider this. When you enter a movie, and of course, what happens, just to underscore, the problems of identification becomes your problems. You're the one that feels the emotions, both good and bad, as it is projected by the movie, right? Okay, that part is certain. So now what happens is that there is a shrishti. Shrishti means that there is a creation, and that's the makeup of the movie, the producer, the director, the storyline, all of those combined together to make it into an experience. So this is what is called shrishti. Now, the shrishti comes first, and your identification with it comes as a byproduct. So this is what is called drishti. Drishti means identification. And so shrishti comes first and drishti comes later. This is why the shrishti can be gone, which it does. In 1.5 to 2 hours, the shrishti is gone. And other than a little bit of memory and vasana resulting from your experience of watching the movie, it's gone. So in shrishti drishti vada, vada means in the form of, is what is called shrishti drishti vada. Srishti first, then drishti, and vada means just the very form of the whole thing. In this one, what happens is that you enter into a srishti, and then you leave the srishti into another different normal, what you might call normal life of you as a human being, whoever you are. Okay? This is what happens. Now let us apply it to what the Shastra says about us in our life. Okay, let's take the next step. Here, the Shastra says, and here, by the way, I have to tell you this. It took me a while to really understand this, a lot of study, and I must say that I'm very indebted to Swami Maheshanandji and Swami Akhandanandji to clarify this. And it's very possible that Swami Dayanandji and Swami Viditatmanandaji and, all of the acharyas, they might have pointed this out, but it wasn't clear to me. So it's really my own preparation that it's not their fault. I'm not doing that. But regardless of that, what I'm beginning to understand is that Vedanta also has stages of the teaching. So there is an undergraduate level teaching, and then there's a graduate level teaching. And you cannot precede the graduate level by the under. It has to be done one thing at a time. I hope that. Hold on just a second. Okay. I should remove that phone from this room. So there in the undergraduate level, it is the depiction of life is very similar to a movie. So what I'm saying is, at the undergraduate level, it says, this is Ishvara's Srishti. Ishvara's Srishti. And you become a part of it. So there also it is like a higher level movie. This is the beginning level, undergraduate level. You know what the graduate level? And so the undergraduate level, it's not wrong. It's not as though first you are telling me this, now you're telling me this. What happens is that at the undergraduate level, high school, undergraduate level, it will be fruitless to give you the subtlety that you are not capable of understanding. So in the beginning, they match it. So this is exactly the message of the Bhagavad Gita. That really, Arjuna, yes, there is jnanam and there is karma, but you please do karma. Because I'm not sure that you are capable of, I mean, not sure, but he's saying that there's a possibility that you may not grasp it. So keep studying. Karma there, karma yoga means to develop your mind to become more tolerant and to be more peaceful and to be forgiving and all of that. And you need that in order to understand the subtlety of Vedanta. So there is an undergraduate versus graduate. Here also. So in the undergraduate level, it is said the same thing. Shrishti Drishti Vada is kept at a higher level. So that means that this is Ishvara's Srishti, and then you see the Drishti, then you have the identification. Identification stays. It's not as though it's a different thing. But the way it happens is that in the undergraduate level, it is supposed to be Ishvara's Srishti, and then you have the Drishti. At the graduate level, it reverses. It reverses, meaning Advaita Vedanta at the graduate level, which is the real level. There's no more after that. I mean, you can talk about specialization, PhD, etc., but just looking at it, the simplicity of it at the graduate level, which is the last level, it is not Srishti Drishti Vada, but Drishti Srishti Vada. So this we need to understand, and if we can just focus on that for now, that will be very good. What does that mean? What does be Drishti Srishti Vada? Now this, please, just listen to this part of it. It says, you, the jiva, the person, creates the whole thing at the same time that you are identified with it. Really? I create the whole thing? How is that possible? I created the conflicts of the world. I created Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. I created, how can I have created? I'm a recipient of it. This is advanced Vedanta. This is graduate level Vedanta. The acharyas, and the acharyas are telling me this. Don't take my word. You won't really believe me. Who is this guy telling me all this? But hopefully you would have a little bit more shraddha towards the shansanam of the Shastra. And even, I tell you, I see in the writings of the, Mahatmas like Khandananda ji and so on, they don't blast it. They will hint at it. But what? Consistently hint at it. So you get the message. And in fact, this is done on a very personal level. Is what is called antevasinaha. So the students have to live very close by, where the person, the teacher, develops relationship and only tells this in a very sparing way. You are doing the whole thing. Anyway, we're just talking about it, and now it's up to you to see how you absorb it. So this is what it says. It says, you are creating it, and then you are identified with it, abhimana. I created it? How's that possible? This is where, as we have talked about it so many times, the dream creation is done to prove it. And the dream creation, by the way, it's interesting, we are doing one of the 4 prakaranas only, Agama Prakarana. There's 3 other prakaranas. There is certainly a possibility, I'm certainly has crossed my mind, that instead of going through all the 4 prakaranas, which will take me 5 years, already we have spent 84 classes means 2 years, I guess, close to it, and we are not even done on the first prakarana. We may not do the other 3. We'll have to see. Anyway, that's just something that I have to think about. But the dream creation is a very purposeful creation to convince us that mine is a drishti shrishtivada, not a shrishti drishtivada. That I create and then I become part of it. So this should be very obvious. This is the proof. You cannot say, no, this is all very theoretical. You cannot prove it to me that I created the whole. How can I have created Trump and Zelensky and Putin? No way, there's no way I can do that. You would probably do the same thing in the dream also. You created funny situations. You created all kinds of things and so on. And the other thing, which is very important, by the way, along with this fact that you created the whole thing. I mean, I'll come back to it in a minute, but one other aspect of that is, this is also another distinction between undergraduate and graduate. What do I mean by that? At the undergraduate level, you have 3 shariras. You have 3 bodies. So you have the sthula sharira, which is solid body. You have the subtle body, which is the mind. And then you have the karana sharira, which is the cause of both of them, which is ignorance. This is at the undergraduate level. So what that means is that your conclusion that there is a combination of solidity and non-solidity. Some of things are solid, some things are very sthula. There's hardware, there is software, and of course Karana Sharira is just the cause, so it's not visible. The Karana is not visible, the Karya is visible. The effect is visible. The effect is sthula or sukshma. So this is what I have to deal with. This is the undergraduate level. At the graduate level, again, it is said, everything is just a thought projection. Meaning that a solid object that you see is a solid looking thought. And you have a non-solid looking thought, which is subtle mind. Like, for example, when you talk to someone and then they say something and you evaluate what you heard and you think about it, you react to it. Yes, it's true. No, it's not true. Why did you say that? Yes, I'm happy that you said that. Saying things, sounds, thoughts, those are all subtle things. But you also see tables, chairs, etc., which are solid things. So you see both of the things. At the graduate level, it says, no. There is no such thing as a solid thing, apart from a solid looking thought. So this is exactly what happens in a dream. In a dream also, you cannot really have a realistic dream. You cannot have a realistic dream without having a combination of solids and non-solids. There also it's very possible that you may touch a hot plate and say, oops, in the dream. Because you might have done it in the real life and that memory also comes up there. But there also there is a real hot plate. There's also some pain as by touching it. All of that happens. So the end result is, the essence of all this is, you create a world of solid and non-solid things. And then you identify with it. You create the whole thing and you play a small part in it. This is what happens. So this is in the dream. Now, the graduate level Vedanta says, now, this is not an isolated case, my dear. I am just telling you the dream as an example to convince you. Your entire life is exactly like that. It is just a pure... So, one other thing. I wanted to conclude the sidetrack that we did about the solid and the non-solid things before I go about to the other conclusion. So there it says that please see that your entire life is your thoughtful projection. Thoughtful means not thoughtless, thoughtful. Full of thought. It's thought-oriented. It's a thought projection. Forget about thoughtful. It's a thought projection. The whole thing. And what happens is that just like, again, we have talked about the pieces of the puzzle before. This is why the seventh mantra is a summary of all the pieces of the puzzle. It is nine. Seventh mantra is now putting the pieces together so you can see the whole picture. So one of the pieces of the puzzle that we have seen before is that the dream is a vasana, is a memory of other experiences that you've had previously. Isn't it? We know that. The other day, my son was telling me that our granddaughter, who's going to be 4 very soon, is not quite 4 yet. So she was down with some illness. She actually had pneumonia, believe it or not. Anyway, she's getting better. And so she had fever, and so they put her next to my son, and she was sleeping next to him. And my son was telling me that it was very painful to see that she had a dream. She was articulating a dream. And she was saying things in the dream. You could hear, you could actually make out what she's saying. And so it was, she says, we all feel that we all go to sleep and then everything is okay. We actually have the same experiences in another form, as vasanas, as memories. Excuse me. So we know that the dream is a leftover memory of some other experiences. Now the question is, this life that I'm leading is not a memory of anything else. It is what I'm leading right now. So the graduate level Vedanta says no. It is in fact a vasana of your accumulated experiences up to now in previous lives. It's all exactly how you remember things. It's very interesting. When they, one of the very easy understanding of the fact that we all have multiple lives is the way the animals behave as soon as they're born. So the birds, for example, as soon as they develop some wings, they start to fly. The baby sucks the mother's nipples for milk as soon as it is born. You're not taught. You're not saying, please do this or anything. The bird is not taught. It is all from the previous life, from all the memories of how it is done. Amazing. So, to come to the real example, our life is really a projection. Okay? All right. So let's do step by step. Let's do one one jigsaw puzzle piece at a time. All right? So now we can say that our Shastra points out that you are projecting and experiencing all at the same time. You are an offshoot of your previous experiences in terms of your projection. So this is exactly what happens. We can relate to it, that based on, and there's so much genetics involved and so on. This is why we say, I think we said that before, which is a startling statement. Parents do not choose you, you choose the parents. This is an amazing thing. And it's an explanation of this very phenomena, that you are successively projecting a world out of your own previous experiences. And you keep doing that until you begin to analyze the very contents and the very truth about these experiences. And the more you look into it, the more you come to the conclusion, my God, there is something that I was overlooking. So this is when the Viveka starts, that it is not just what I am looking at, what I am projecting, what I am experiencing. There is also a projector. There is an experiencer. Who is that? When the moment you start doing that viveka, you start to look into the truth of the whole thing. There is at one place up until this time, which is what we all do, you're only focused on the movie that you are seeing. You're only focusing on the dream that you have. Which is not natural. But it's incomplete. It isn't until you start to look into, how do I dream? Who dreams? What happens to the person that after the dream? Similarly here also, it is not only the drishya, but the drik. Then together you have to see, my goodness, I was missing that piece, and now I have to look at the totality of it. The moment you do that, you are now on a path to understand what's going on. Path to freedom. Until then, you're only an abhimani, only concerned with abhimana. Anyway, so that's a separate thing. Now we say, look at this phenomenon. Let me make sure that I have my watch out so I can see what time it is. 9:19. Okay, I have time. So now what you see is that, so we go back to Shrishti Drishtivada is not applicable Drishti Shrishti Vada is applicable in advanced Vedanta. I am projecting and also experiencing all at the same time. Okay? So this is what is called Eka Jiva Vada. Eka Jiva Vada. Meaning, we have done before. This is all we have covered that in the past if you go back to the previous classes. What Eka Jiva Vada means is that I am the only jiva in the whole world. How? How can you say that? Flies against what we experience. I'm only a small person and everybody else is there, millions of people, billions of people. So as we will now begin to approach this vision, we are not quite there yet, but we have to start an introduction to it. That's not true. I am in fact projecting the whole thing. Just like, for example, you may have 1 billion people in your dreams, but they are all you. They are not different from you. You are the only person who is projecting. You may project 1 billion people, but that is a projection which is not true. The only truth of what you are seeing is yourself. This is what is being pointed out. So as part of this explanation, another piece of the puzzle that we have seen before is this. Anything that you see has to be validated by you. Anything that you see. Nothing is possible without you, the validator. For example, take a look at time. Time does not have an independent reality without you. It does not have an independent reality. It's not as though this is you and then there is time. So this is what happens, that in the error we put our I in the body. And the moment you put your I in the body, which is a mistake, which is saying that this body is me, you now have a distorted idea of what is time, what is place, and what is you. So you become a recipient of time, right? And the time becomes infinite. It becomes not only infinite, but it becomes something real. You say, how can I ignore time? I can't ignore time. Time has been there. I can be gone in a minute. I can have a heart attack and I die just now, and the time stays. So the time is more real than I am. This is my view. And this view is not wrong if you see yourself in terms of a parichinna vastu, a limited person, which is true. But that's not, it's true that if you look at yourself as a parichinna vastu, then the time also has a certain reality which is more encompassing than you. True. But this is not true. You're not a parichinna vastu. What do you mean by I'm not a parichinna vastu? I'm an aparichinna vastu. Parichinna vastu means that I am the ultimate reality, the ultimate validator. And the time is not. The time has to take my permission. Time has to take my permission. How? Okay, all right, let's look into that. If the time was an independent vastu, will it not be aware of me? Is the time aware of you? It's not. The time is an idea. An idea is not an independent vastu. Idea depends on you. Excuse me. So the idea, the time is an idea. Ideas are born out of you, reflected in you, and disappearing in you. So the time is not aware of you. You are the Chaitanya Vastu, but you are aware of time. So we'll see who is dependent and who is independent. This is the mistake that we make. So the fact of the matter is, very interestingly enough, that's an analysis we will do later on sometime. It's an important analysis. Okay, so I'll just talk about that for just a second before we go back to the original one. So here there is a distinction between the word called Nitya. Nitya. Nitya means constant. Nitya. There's a difference between Nitya and Sat. Difference between what is and what is Nitya. So sometimes we can say that the Sat is also Nitya, right? We also, which is, so we have to look at the context of the word, but on this particular analysis, I want to make a distinction between Nitya and Sat. Nitya means constant. Sat does not mean constant. It means independent isness. Nitya is dependent isness and Sat is independent existence. So now we see, just look at this. When you say, what time is it? Right now it's 9:31 and soon to be 9:32, right? So time has two different forms. Two different forms. One is the specific time at this time. You know, like supposing you have to do some things, like you have to. This is what happens. We wanted to enroll in something, like you're catching up. Yeah, that's a good example. This happens in Southwest Airlines. So if you buy a ticket for South, I think they're going to change it. But right now, seats are assigned one day before the exact time of the departure. And the sooner you get it, the better seats you get. We've all done that. Very frustrating. So you are just watching for the time exactly at 9:30. You have to press the button. And so this is one aspect of time, the specific time. So this is what is called anitya. So anitya means a time which is changing. 9:30, now it is 9:32 already. The 9:30 is gone. But there is a nitya time. Right? There is a nitya time, meaning that there is a constant time, just because, in fact, you cannot have anitya time unless there is a nitya time, and there is a nitya time, because yes, we know there is time. The whole world is based on the two main coordinates, which is time and space. And so we know that. And that time, is it anitya or nitya? It is nitya. Nitya means it's constant. It's constant. Now, here is where the distinction needs to be made. Just because time is constant, it is not Sat. How? How is that so? Because the constancy of time, the nityatvam, kalasya nityatvam, nityakalaha, nityadeshaha, nityavastu, is also in the projection. It's in the projection. It is part of drishya, and it is also jada. It is inert. It does not have any independent existence. It depends upon the validator. The validator is the Sat. The validator, the Sakshi, is the Sat. And the time, whether it is Anitya time or Nitya time, both of them. So there is a distinction between specific time and general time. But both of them depend upon Sat. They may be there, they may not be there. In fact, it's a very funny thing, really something, an important thing, not just funny. Do you know every night in deep sleep state, time disappears? There's no time. You get your own experience. Sat is there, you are there. The awareness is there. But time disappears. In fact, it's so interesting. Time disappears, space disappears, Akasha disappears, thought disappears. So don't say that this is Nitya, constant. We can say this is time is constant. Yes, it is constant, but the constant, it is at a lower level than the validator. Anyway, so that's just on the side of the time. So what it means is that all projections, time, space, objects, it's very interesting. If you look at this, what is called Taratamya. Taratamya means this priority list. So start with an object, like a cell phone. So when you say a cell phone must depend upon a time and space. You cannot have a cell phone without time. You cannot have a cell phone without space. It is here at this time. You cannot define an object which is not dependent on time and space. So this is the Taratamya. So you start with an object. It has to depend on time and space. Time and space cannot exist without you, the Sakshi. Even though they are, you might say, use the word superior than a cell phone, because the cell phone can come and go. Superior in the sense that the cell phone, it can come and go, but the time and space stay as Nitya. Right? So Nityatvam of time and space, as though it is absolute. It is not. Why is it not absolute? Because it depends on you, the Satyam. Satyam is absolute. All projections, all drishya are dependent, and as they are drishya, As Drishya, they have all the qualities of Drishyatvam, which is they are not constant. I mean, they are not real. They come and go. They are dependent on you, the Sakshi. So now, so I think what I will do is in the next class, we will go from here, because I have more things to talk about in terms of you, the Chetana Vastu, the ultimate validator. How many of you are there? We've already seen some of it. This can be only one validator. This is what is meant by Eka Jiva Vada. There can be only one validator. And that validator, you can call it Jivatma, you can call it Paramatma, you can call it Ishvara, you can call it Jiva. Those are all different names of the same Vastu. So Jiva, for example, is like a wave of the ocean. The ocean is the name of the entire thing. Both of them are nothing but the reality of the water. So similarly here it is Brahman is the reality. And Jiva is an upadhi. Ishvara is an upadhi. But Brahman is the Sakshat Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So this is what is meant by Eka Jiva Vada. This is what is meant by you are the single projection. So we will continue to examine it in more detail, more relevance to the fact that we become abhimani in the three states and how that happens. So I think we will continue to zero in on all of that as a commentary on the seventh mantra. So we will do that in the next class. So that reminds me, next Saturday we will not have a class. Let's not have a class. The reason is that on the previous Friday, which is the coming Friday, on the 7th, we have a very major meeting of Aim for Seva, where we are thanking and honoring the major contributors to Aim for Seva. We've started doing this in the last couple of years, and I think we'd like to do that to discuss what are we doing. We don't get a chance to do that in the annual event, and so over dinner I think we will discuss that. All of that is being arranged by some of our staff people. That will be on Friday, and so a lot of effort will go into it, and the meeting itself may last quite late. And so I think it'll be better not to have the class next morning. So I will also write it in the WhatsApp. But next Saturday, we will not have a class. Okay? So when we meet again, the following Saturday, we will continue with this, on this thread of Drishti Shrishti Vada and Eka Jiva Vada. Until then, we will wait. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Friday. Very good. Good to see you all. Hope to see you soon. Hari Om.